Hi there, Pastor Chris Hoy with you again here on this 15th day of Lent. We're about a third of the way through this season. Thank you for joining me as we make our way through Traumatic Triumph. If you have the devotional book, if that's something that you've got online and purchased, um, I hope that you've been bringing it on Sundays to your place of worship and making notes. I used it for this coming Sunday to even jot some of my notes on the passages that I would be preaching on. And I found it a great way to just kind of keep my entire Lenten journey in one spot. So if that's something you'd be interested in doing, we're only a third of the way through Lent. There's still an opportunity to pick up Traumatic Triumph. You can come by the church and reach out to us if you're here locally, or if you're watching this from afar, you can get that resource on Amazon.com. Anyway, enough of that. Today, we start with kind of dealer's choice in terms of the recentering activity. So something that we've done in the past that you might find works well for you. It could be pausing here and taking an inventory of your senses, things that you see, things that you feel, things that you touch, things that you smell, kind of grounding yourself in the moment. Could be something as simple as taking those deep breaths. Whatever is going to help you recenter this morning and or afternoon, whenever you're watching this, and get you ready for the presence of God. So go ahead and push pause and do that, and then we'll come right back at it. Okay, so today's devotional is called Comparison, and it's from John chapter 7, verse 53 through chapter 8, verse 11. And I'll be reading from the New Living Translation. Then the meeting broke up and everybody went home. Jesus returned to the Mount of Olives, but early the next morning he was back again at the temple. A crowd soon gathered, and he sat down and taught them. As he was speaking, the teachers of the religious law and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in the act of adultery. They put her in front of the crowd. "Teacher," they said to Jesus, "this woman was caught in the act of adultery. The law of Moses says to stone her. What do you say?" They were trying to trap him into saying something they could use against him, but Jesus stooped down and wrote in the dust with his finger. They kept demanding an answer, so he stood up again and said, "All right, but let the one who has never sinned throw the first stone." Then he stooped down again and wrote in the dust. When the accusers heard this, they slipped away one by one, beginning with the oldest, until only Jesus was left in the middle of the crowd with the woman. Then Jesus stood up again and said to the woman, "Where are your accusers? Didn't even one of them condemn you?" "No, Lord," she said. And Jesus said, "Neither do I. Go and sin no more." You know, there will always be someone that we can compare ourselves to. Even if we are all alone, we can compare ourselves to some other version of ourselves from the past, from what our parents expected us to be, from our own fantasies of what life was supposed to be like. However, someone usually is around, and the other makes for an easy target. You know, Theodore Roosevelt is credited with saying comparison is the thief of joy. And I would agree that this sentiment rings true. As a child, I was happy with getting a piece of cake at my sister's birthday party. That is, until I saw that as the birthday girl, she got a bigger piece. Well, in today's reading, the subject matter is much more serious than pieces of cake. Jesus had been at the temple, left, and then returned the next morning. Those who wished to confront him were waiting. I doubt that on their way to the temple to confront Jesus, they happened upon an adulterous woman. No, this was most certainly premeditated. That means they must have known this woman from some other incident. Either she had a reputation or an occupation that would have put her in adulterous situations. And one wonders how the religious leaders were able to so easily locate her. Also, in adultery, there are two parties involved. I'm wondering where the man is in this situation. Well, caught up in their fabricated outrage, they drag the woman before Jesus and use her to test him. They put her in front of the crowd, alone, between the mob and Jesus. She is nameless. She is merely a pawn in their play to corner Jesus into incriminating himself. And Moses says to stone her. What do you say, Jesus? Well, interestingly enough, the right to stone anyone to death, regardless of what Moses said, has been taken away from the Jewish people. They are under Roman law at this point as an occupied nation, and perhaps this is part of the trap that they are setting for Jesus. Those that wanted to incriminate Jesus were often juxtaposing the religious and the civil law against one another and asking Jesus to pick a side. Well, at first, Jesus remains silent. He just writes in the dirt. I'm almost certain that the woman is near and can see what he is writing. Perhaps some in the crowd can as well. He continues writing, even after being goaded into giving a response. Let the one who has never sinned throw the first stone. Little by little, the crowd starts breaking up, starting with the oldest among them. Jesus continues writing in the dirt. The scratching sound of his finger in the dust punctuated by the murmurs of the dissipating mob, and the soft thuds and thunks of stones being dropped to the ground. The woman is no longer alone. She has been pushed in front of the crowd between the mob and Jesus. The scene ends with the onlookers still there, but the accusers in that mob have left. She is encircled, but no longer in a mob. She is in the middle of the circle with Jesus. Those that wanted to use her, to condemn her, to make her a pawn in the game of trying to trap Jesus, they have all left. A crowd remains, however, and she, as well as they, have a chance to hear these amazing words. Neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more. This story is a wonderful illustration of God's heart for us in the midst of our eager attempts to justify ourselves and our sinful behavior by comparing ourselves to others. But try as we might to get God to play the game of comparisons with us, Jesus does not oblige. At the end, we are encircled by the crowd, speaking one-on-one with Jesus. He is our defender and protector, not someone out to condemn us. No comparisons are made, but a command is given. Go and sin no more. And these words cannot be read as shaming, can they? It wouldn't fit the whole tone of the narrative. They must be an encouragement, a prayer even. As surely as that woman sinned again, we repeat ourselves in past sinful behavior. It doesn't mean that we're broken, beyond hope, or unrepentant. We simply need Jesus every moment. We need the redemption he offers and the encouragement he brings to persist in our learning, our growing, and living into healthier habits. We are not redeemed and forgiven so that we can compare ourselves to others and climb the spiritual ladder of success. We are redeemed so that we can learn, and grow in compassion and grace. We can start today by refusing the poison of comparison. Remember this day, and hopefully always, comparison poisons our soul. Compassion for ourselves and others brings healing. Other passages for reflection today include Psalm 128 and Ezekiel chapter 36, verses 22 through 32. God bless you, and I hope to see you tomorrow.